Welcome to Positive Filter with your host, Philip Wilkerson, a podcast that focuses on friends, family, health, and career with a little self-help around the way. Please join me in this journey for self-improvement, and I hope that what I have to share will make you a better person, thus making the world a better place. All right. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's Positive Filter, Philip Wilkerson, a.k.a. the Prince of Positivity, a.k.a. Ill Phil, a.k.a. I got Austin, Texas on my leg, back with another episode of Positive Filter. I'm joined by a special guest, Jared Powell. So me and Brother Powell, Brother Powell, that is a member of Alpha Phi Alpha, we have not met in person, but we have a very unique connection where I used to work with, is it your aunt, I believe?
Yes, it is. Yes. My aunt Iris.
Yes, I used to, and she said she knew when I was going through the process what I was doing, and she said, you know, that's very interesting. Once you make it, you'll be in the same fraternity as my nephew. And then literally me and Jared have gone back and forth for about 2 years since I crossed. And I said, you know what? Eventually, let me stop messing around. Let me get this guy on the podcast, because what Iris told me was that he was an author of a book called Confessions of an Unemployed Professional, and I work in career development. So I definitely bought a copy of his book, and he signed it for me. And it's funny, throughout the semester, I have used his book to give to students that need help. So Jared, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Go ahead and give the listeners a little background of yourself.
Well, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. Yeah, just like you mentioned, so I wrote this book a couple of years ago. Originally, my background is in mechanical engineering, and I graduated from Tuskegee University. Yes,
HBCUs.
Like I said, HBCU as an engineer. And one of the things that you find, you probably will have, different careers in your life. You'll start out one way, and you'll have 2 different, 3. Hey, some people even say as much as 9 careers in your lifetime. So I'm actually here. I live in California. And I basically just kind of wrote this book to help other people. It's just, consolidated a lot of information and put it in this really, really digestible and easy book to read, to understand, and to actually just help you navigate the pitfalls of being employed.
Yes, and so you directly said 2 things. One is I use this book, The Confessions of an Unemployed Professional. I don't use it so much so for my most recent graduates, but I do work with a lot of students that are alumni, because at my institution, you're allowed to come back as an alumni to get career help. And also I've used this more particularly with my non-traditional alumni that have been alumni about 5 years out, where they've gone out into the world of work, and particularly they say, yo, Philip, I really don't like what I'm doing, but I'm having a hard time because I got this degree in X, Y, and Z. And so I use definitely a couple chapters. I PDF them, I share them. I also encourage them to get the book, because your story, I think, resonates way more with that population of people going out into the world of work and then having to start all over again. So can you take us back to that journey of how you started writing this book and having to start a little bit over again?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. So I was in Los Angeles, and I was doing some contract work for a company. I don't know if I should name the company, but I'll go ahead.
No, you don't have to name drop. You don't have to name drop. I don't want to get you in trouble. Just say the company.
Okay. So it was definitely a Fortune 500 company, and I was contract, because that's the way that a lot of employers are able to, hire on work and then just kind of let you go when their budgets change. So that kind of happened with me. So I found myself in a situation where it's like, okay, let's get back on, the horse, they say, to, get your resume out here, send it out there, do all these things. And so I was doing that for several weeks. If not, the weeks turned into months. The month turned into many more months. And I just kind of felt like, okay, I'm really getting professional at, looking for work and looking for jobs, and I just noticed a lot of rhythm, day-to-day rhythms, what you do, how do you interact with recruiters, also just kind of networking, talking with people, going here and there and being out. So I just decided to kind of put it in a book. And it also, writing also was just very helpful because, many times when you're unemployed, you want some sense of accomplishment, you want a sense that, what am I going to do today? So having something to do every day, along with all the other obligations you have, just kind of gave me a goal and also something that I could control on my own.
I love that. And you know what I love most about that is that sense of agency, where it was like, yo, beyond my circumstances, what can I do that's productive? I mean, shout out, that's amazing. I know so many people that are unemployed, and I know that could wear on your mental health. So how did you know, that, not getting, if you, as personal as you want, not getting so depressed and all that, how do you know, like, yo, I'm gonna take charge of this situation? What was like the snapping point? What made you say, rather than be depressed or, face, because that seems like a very hard time. I can't imagine not having a job for that long without it affecting my well-being. Where did it snap and say, yo, I'm gonna take charge. I'm gonna change my my perspective on this and write a book and use that time to be productive?
Well, the book, I would say that I wrote the book over the course of about 3 years.
Okay.
So over those 3 years, I was, there were moments where I definitely was employed. I was, I had one contract job that lasted 10 months, another that lasted 11, another that lasted, maybe the last one was like 6 months. And actually that was a full-time job. So within the span of like 3 years. So after the last one, I said, you know what? I actually have a story to tell because, so after the last job ended, I went ahead and just finished up, finalized, and then went ahead and published the book. But what just kept me going was just knowing that a couple of things, knowing that something really great was out there. It was my faith, spirituality, knowing that God had something better for me. And then sometimes I just say to myself, you know what, to be real, just to be real. Can I be real with you?
Yeah, you can be real.
Sometimes I tell myself, there's got to be more for me to do in this life, and if there's not something, then God can take me, and he hasn't taken me. So, hey, that means there must be something out there for me.
That's very powerful. I love that sense of purpose. Like what's the point? If I'm not doing something, you could take me, but I got a purpose that's going to keep me waking up every day. Like,
exactly.
And so and I know you express your faith, within your faith, would you pray about it and say, God, I want to write this book really well? What kind of, and you can say self-talk, prayer, whatever, what kind of things and messages were you telling yourself?
Well, one of the tools that I used was YouTube. I mean, that was an amazing tool. I would listen to anywhere from, meditations on YouTube. They have so many different types, and I'm not trying to give a shout out to YouTube, but it is actually very, very helpful.
Yeah.
And the key that I would do is listen to really positive messages, whether people are speaking or they have what they have on YouTube. They have what they call like a frequency vibration, which is supposed to, get into your subconscious and allow you to elevate your frequency to positive thoughts. I would put that on and then go to sleep with it and wake up feeling refreshed and lighter and energized. And then, of course, the teachers, that I would read and that I would listen to, anywhere from Tony Robbins to Oprah Winfrey.
Yes.
I would listen to even to monks talk about, the meaning and purpose of life. All of these things was really, really very helpful.
I mean, that's great. And I love how you said, I always think about, with the garbage of the world, just as much as your physical diet, you have a mental diet. And I always say to myself that same thing, like, what are you feeding yourself mentally? Like, what are you listening to? And so, I balance my trap music, I balance that, but I nerd out. I have audio books, I have podcasts, I have those messages too. I'm an audio learner. So I listen to
Mm-hmm.
audiobooks. And I think
Mm-hmm.
about that too. Like what I fed my brain over time is just subconsciously adapted my personality. Like people say, Philip, you're super positive, thinking that's like sunshine and butterflies, right? Like I'm just positive. But I think over time, it's just what I fed my brain. Like I really fed my brain just that language where I think I have a healthy brain, you know, if that makes sense. Like I try to like make sure that like, what am I messaging myself? What am I saying to myself? And so I love that idea. Maybe I have to check out some of the vibration stuff, but I definitely listen to, you know, TED Talks and TED Talks on YouTube. And I listen to things like that as well to help me just think about my brain message. What am I telling myself? What am I feeding myself? So
Yep.
I like to get back to when you were writing the book and you said you had a structure, were you setting dates and check marks in your Google Calendar? How were you going about the structure of writing a book?
Yeah. There's, you know, a lot of writers come up with all different kind of methods for that. Since this was my first time, that's why it took me 3 months. 3 years to actually do, because I kept getting distracted. You know, it wasn't the goal. But I would say, you know, a lot of the times it was just inspiration. It was just, you know, I had something to say and I would just say it. And sometimes it didn't matter where I was. I mean, I'm gonna be real. Sometimes, you know, I would just be on my computer and I would just pour out, you know, a paragraph here, a paragraph there.
Okay.
Sometimes I, you know, would even come up with ideas where I was, you know, maybe at work and I'd be on my lunch break and I go craft something. But the key was just keeping everything together, because it's one of the things as a writer, I hate rewriting. And if I wrote something and then I didn't save it, or, you know, I couldn't find it, I would get really, really frustrated. But,
yes, I get that.
But yeah, I allowed inspiration to actually fuel it. But yeah, I did actually have to, you know, give myself milestones and say, okay, if we actually really want to get this done, then we need to get this done by this month toward the end.
Yeah. And I think that's what I want to talk to, because I think I get inspired, but like sometimes if you don't set a finite goal, you know, smart goals, you could have been writing that book for 7 years. So what time did you say, yo, I need to get, this is the date. This is the final countdown. When did you come to that date?
I think that was after my, I left I didn't leave. I did leave a job in San Francisco, and I believe it was 2016.
Okay.
And I said, and it was right around June or August. And there's nothing like the end of the year and the holidays. And I said, okay, I want this done before the holidays. I want this done before the end of the year. Okay. So I had basically until about August to December of 2016. I said, I want to get this done. Mm-hmm. Great. And granted, I had already probably done about 70% of it. Yeah. But there's that last 30%, you know, the rewrite, the revising, getting it edited twice, you know, putting together all the book cover and all those things that can really, really trip you up. I love it. And I love, you know, the parts I read about, I love how you have a systematic list. I'm a list person, and I love the appendix. I love the references. Like I said, this is easily digestible. I definitely like find what students are looking for, and I reference directly to those pages. You know what I'm saying? I even use I told people that when you're looking for a job, you need to set structure. Like Monday is your research day, Wednesday is your networking day, and Friday is your application day. I just love the structure of that. And like I said, you know, I ain't gonna lie to the listeners. I don't read books cover to cover. I quite honestly don't. I listen to audiobooks, but literally what I did with your book, which I think was super helpful, is I just went to the appendix, or I went to the chapters that were relevant to what I was talking about, and then I would just read that. And what I found about your book is that you were able to do that with just different things like how do you network and all that stuff. So, you know, one of the main chapters that I want you to speak on is one of the best things I really use all the time was the reframing of when people are applying and they're not getting jobs back, how that list of these are possible reasons why you didn't get a second interview. I literally have shared that with at least 10 students, because I try to tell the students,
You have done everything correct. Keep on doing the correct things. But you do not know what's going on behind the scenes of these organizations that you're applying to. You do not know that they're going on a hiring freeze. You did not know that while you're the best candidate, they already had an internal hire. And I think that really, I found so much feedback when people were like, wow, Philip, I was starting to attach that to my personality. I was starting to think that I sucked, when in actuality, these are things beyond my control. That's quite honestly, I think that's my favorite chapter or favorite part of the book. And I shared that multiple times. Tell me what came into that chapter, how you came to that part of the book for you to write about.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, actually, I mean, some of the things that I wrote about that I listed in that chapter, I've experienced firsthand. Some of the things, basically, like you had mentioned, you hear about an opportunity, whether it's, you see it online or through a friend, and then you find out that they already had someone in mind. They had an internal candidate.
Yes.
And you've actually already gone on 2 interviews already.
Yes.
It's like, okay. I mean, sometimes companies have to deal with a lot of sort of rules and regulations depending on what the job is and the industry. They have to make it public. They have to put it out there.
Yeah.
Then also sometimes, you ask for too much money, and it's and that's why they always say that you wait until the end. But this could be specifically for like when you're dealing with recruiters. Many times some recruiters would ask you, okay, for this job, they're paying 35 or 40. And you're like, I'm not going to do that job anything less than 50. I've even been personally. Now here is something that is kind of personal. I've been told, that your resume, your experience was solid, but it was just, it didn't wow me. It didn't wow me. So
whoa.
Hey,
And
I mean, honestly, yeah.
And when okay, I love that. Let's dive deeper. What was the wow part? What did they want that was wow?
I guess they wanted more success, more, you increase their profit or revenue by, instead of 20%, they were looking for something like 50%.
What? That's ridiculous.
It's just, they're looking for something that, and sometimes I would say, you have to walk on water like Jesus sometimes.
Yes.
But it's all good. It just, it's like, and that's the thing though, you get sort of tempted to put some wow things on your resume, to kind of put stuff on it. And that's where it can get you in trouble because it's not true.
Yes.
And people do that. And I always stay away from that. And I just say, this is what I do. This is who I am. This is what I can provide.
Yes.
So you just have to, find the right organization that can appreciate what you're bringing to the organization.
I mean, I think that's perfect because I said there's only one absolute on the resume. And they say, what is that? And I said, do not lie. Because if you lie on a resume, it's going to catch you later. They're going to ask you to do something you're not qualified for, or they're going to fact check and you're going to get fired. So stay true to yourself. Yeah. And if their company doesn't, I think that's it, if the company doesn't, you don't wow them by staying true to yourself, then maybe that's not the best company for you anyway.
It's not. It really isn't.
And I try to flip this mindset. I wonder if you agree. I said that if you're brought in for an interview, you are a qualified candidate. You should have a little bit of confidence. But at the same time, while they're interviewing you, you're interviewing them. Don't give them all the power and agency. Look at ask those questions, at the end, like, do you have any questions for us? Ask about their work-life balance. Ask about their commitment to diversity and inclusion. Ask them. Because you know what? Just as much as they want to hire you, you don't have to take every job just because you're desperate for money. Now, there are certain times where it's coming to the wire and you need a job for money. But at the same time, you need to know your worth and your value. And you also need to know where you're going to be comfortable, because we spend so much time at our job that if they don't meet or adhere to your values either, then you're just putting yourself in a bad situation. What do you think about that statement?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. My thing too is, you need a job. And, the first part though, to interviewing and getting that job is simply that, is getting that job. Then the next role, once you get it, you got to keep it. Because just because you got it doesn't mean that, it's a fairy tale and you live happily ever after. Oh no. You got to show yourself for those next 90 days, which is basically 3 months, they're going to be looking at you, you know. They're going to be looking at you when you're not even aware that they're looking at you. People will be watching you, and they're going to say, hey, are we getting our money's worth? So if you want to stay there, you got to perform, you got to add value, and you got to do the best to fit in with the culture. And that's another thing. I mean, you can interview and think it went really, really well, and then they can be like, yeah, he did great, but I just don't think he'll fit into the culture. And I mean, you can read that into whatever you want to read into with that, because, you know, that can be anything.
Yeah, it could be the race thing, it could be identity, it could be, you know, sexual orientation, it could be anything that they're saying culture.
It could be, yeah, it could be cultural, it could just be really any elitism.
Yes.
Anything.
Right, I like that. So I love this book, and I think once you say, man, I did it, I completed this book, I love it. What were some of the journeys of some of the things that you had to go through to, as a new author, you know, things you never thought of before, promoting your book? What were some things that you had to go through once your book was complete?
Well, once I finished writing it, you know, the first, second, maybe even the third draft, and got it edited, you know, before that I had to, you know, obviously find editors. You know, doing this self-publishing, you have to, you know, obviously do everything yourself. So that was one, you know, thing that finding the right editor, you know, using a person who could, you know, enhance your voice. So, you know, I was able to find 2, and it was really, really helpful. And then after that, you know, putting together a website, and then, you know, getting it out there, sharing it, talking to people. I think one of the biggest challenges for new authors is the marketing. And with technology these days, there's a lot that you can do, and there's a lot that changes, you know. So, I mean, I've actually learned some things a couple of weeks ago that I'm going to be utilizing for the second edition of this book, actually. But yeah, I think one of the most challenging things is the marketing.
Oh, wow. All right. So what was some of the initial feedback you got once it was published?
Oh, some of the initial feedback was that, this was really easy to read, you know, a lot of good, insightful, helpful information. You know, it's not too long, gets right to the point. That this was written with a lot of authenticity and sincerity, and it has just some nice nuggets of information. One of the things was, you know, being able to, if you're dealing with a lot of recruiters and you want to be on the top of the list when they start making their calls and saying, hey, are you available? You know, you can upload your resume to a lot of those career sites, stuff like Monster and Indeed, and you know, some of those really, if you upload those on like a Sunday night, you'll be at the top of the list when recruiters start calling for that week. Wow. So then that just gives you a faster time to respond, and then also to, you know, to be ahead of the game, and hopefully get the interview first, you know, so that you can make the first impression.
Got it.
Excuse me.
So what was some constructive feedback that you received that you're going to apply to the version 2?
Version 2 is it's just going to be richer and deeper. It's going to have even more of a spiritual slant for it. It's even going to talk about life coaching, career coaching, sections on that. It's just going to go into more detail, just have a little bit more content, explain and update some of the sections with just more examples, you know.
That's excellent. So with this, I noticed, I looked online that you are doing career coaching. Did this book pivot your career to make you help others and become more of a career expert yourself?
It did. It absolutely did. I actually went and got certified as a life coach in June of this year. And it's just, I have a desire to help people, have a desire to inform, to teach. Actually, what I do on the side is I teach PMP, the project management certification.
Yes.
So I actually go and I travel all over the country and have classes. I work with, these are, professionals from all walks of life, students all the way to professionals. And I train them on how to, prepare for project management to pass the exam, and then also fundamentals and advanced course in project management. And I
Awesome, man.
really enjoy it.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And so you found your passion. You found your thing. You're doing. You're traveling. I believe you're public speaking. You're doing workshops. What are some things? What are some tips that you would give to someone else that wants to be an author? Since just and to there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people that say that can't be me. I don't know how to write a book. But we're showing that with the world of work and information being out there and taking charge. I've met more authors now than I ever believed I met, because people are like taking their knowledge and saying, I can do this. So what are some tips that you can give to aspiring writers?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would say, basically, if you have something to say, then you're going to say it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If you have something to say, it's just going to come out. As a writer, sometimes things just, you want to express yourself, so it's going to come out. And writing is such a nice, easy, low-cost way to just to express yourself and to be creative. And there's just so many tools out nowadays, from all the different types of, obviously I use Word typing it, but you can use something as, the Google Suite, G Suite, with all the Google Docs.
Yeah.
The advantage of using that is that once you type something on that, it's automatically going to be saved. So it's automatically going to go to the cloud. You don't have to worry about carrying around disks. You don't have to worry about, oh, did I save it? Did I lose it? It's automatically there. You can access it from any computer. So the tools that you use, and then there's just inspiration everywhere. If you have questions, like I mentioned before, you can always you can look it up on Google. You can look it up on YouTube. I was telling my class the other day, I said there are so many applications and so many resources now that you just didn't have in the past, that whatever you want to do, you can simply do it. You have to literally just give yourself permission to do it.
Right. Amazing. So I think we have a good time. I definitely want to get you back on the podcast. We got to do a part 2, but I want to leave this opportunity. Oh, I forgot to do my shot for shot. Okay. Yeah. I can't forget that segment. So on the show, if you listened previously, I have a segment called Shot for Shot, which means I get to ask you any random question, maybe not even related to this, and you get to ask me any random question. And then we just go from there. So what is your random question? You want to go first? I'll go first.
I'll go first.
Okay. What's your random question for me?
How long have you been doing this podcast?
All right. So I started the full journey is I started this podcast, I would say mentally, in summer 2006, I believe. I was doing YouTube videos in my car, positive motivational videos, and they were called Random Ramblings of Philip Wilkerson. They're still on YouTube. And I realized that they were so boring because I was just sitting in my car talking. And I was doing it every Monday. And then I realized, wow, let me rip the audio, because I'm not a video person, and just do a podcast. But I had no clue to do it. So I called my friend Sam Nang, and he hooked me up with one of his boys, Dean Picari, who had a podcast. And I talked to him for like an hour, and he showed me how to do it. And so you would think that from that summer, from that initial thing, I would have done it. But I recorded my first episode in December 2016. But I was so anxious and I didn't like it that I did not release my first episode till April 2017. So think about the time of that. Yeah, because I was nervous, I was embarrassed. I thought it was stupid. I thought my voice sucked. I did the intro like 3-4 times. So I would say technically I've been doing this since 2016, but really the firm start date, as you can see with episode number 1, is April 2017. So I like to show people that journey that, people think I'm so comfortable podcasting now. It took me a while to find my voice and enjoy the process and get better. So I've been doing this for quite some time.
It's all about that journey, man.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Well, thank you. So, okay. I like the positive vibrations thing that you spoke of.
Okay.
Can you explain what that concept of vibrations is? And can you, which I'll put in the show notes, can you include or tell the listeners what recommendations you have for YouTube videos that they can start if they want to get into that stuff?
Okay, absolutely. So we're getting ready to get a little spiritual here.
Okay.
But basically, there's a concept that everybody is pure energy, right? We start off as pure energy. And this is actually not in the book, but it may be in the second. We're pure energy, and we want to have a physical expression. We want to have a physical experience, right? So we come into these bodies, and just the notion is that we vibrate in a certain way, okay? When we're feeling good, we're vibrating at a higher frequency. When we're feeling bad, we're vibrating at a lower frequency.
Okay.
Sometimes, if you're like vibrating in a lower frequency, say for instance, you wake up and you stub your toe, right?
Yes.
You're feeling the pain, you're frustrated, then you trip over something in your room, and it's like all of a sudden, all of these, I don't want to just say bad things, but negative things are happening, and they seem like they keep happening.
Yes.
And it's like, it just makes you feel bad, worse and worse, and it just seems like it just keeps happening because you're kind of just attracting it in. So there's a concept there that because you're vibrating in a negative energy, this negative frequency, you keep attracting all these little negative things to happen.
Yes.
In a situation like that, you want to sort of cleanse that. You want to sort of, take a moment, sit down, meditate.
Okay.
Because that's the whole thing about meditation is it raises your vibration and makes you vibrate higher so that you can attract some of the more positive things in. Someone, you could just be going through walking down the street, maybe going to your car, and then all of a sudden you get an impulse to go in a different direction. Okay. You go in a different direction. You look down on the floor, on the sidewalk, and you see maybe $20, $50 on the ground.
Yeah.
You look around, nobody's there. You pick that money up. You're thinking to yourself, why did I walk in this direction at this time? At this moment, I usually go the opposite direction. I don't know. Hey, I got an impulse to go in this direction.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how things work when you're feeling good. Positive things happen, in theory. Go ahead.
No, I was about to say, I know there's a lot of, people think woo-woo and all that, the woo-woo, sunshine and butterflies part. But if you think about the practicality of you control your mindset and you cleanse or not, but like if you put your energy into positive things, ideally you hope that positive outcomes happen. You put your energy into negative things or negative self-talk or negative people, the negative things will happen. If you want to break it down to just the very basic logic, right? When I met a lot of people that talk about that, like, yo, you vibrate on this level. Like if you think about it from the very average sense of like the 5 people I surround myself are very negative people, then I'm gonna become a negative person. So you could take it from a very foo-foo spiritual way, or you can look at it like for me as a very scientific, logical way that your concept of vibration makes perfect sense. Correct.
I couldn't agree more.
Because like you be honest, like like that said, like people, like I said, like if you put on that good energy, I have a good outcome. I think today's gonna be a good day, and I shift and I walk through that way with the mind that I'm gonna have a good day. Then maybe even if I stub my toe, I'm like, oh, that's all right. But maybe I can reset, and my lunch was really good. I have a good lunch.
Okay. Yes.
Or so I that's why I'm very interested. I want to listen to that. I'm gonna get the listeners to get into it. I'm very curious about karma and different things and mindset. So I definitely think that's a great resource. So I'm definitely gonna take you up on that. And when you share that with the listeners, I'm gonna I'm gonna listen to it too.
Yeah. So a lot of this stuff will be in the second edition of Confessions of an Unemployed Professional. And I believe we're going to have an audio tape on that one as well.
Oh, that's in my wheelhouse, man. I'm gonna have to get that one because you know me. I say for someone that loves education, I hate reading, but
Yeah.
you know, I don't hate knowledge and books. I just like my books to be on the go. I love
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
listen to. I'm an audio processor. I love to. I process by listening. So I definitely love the knowledge. I think education and books are wonderful. Just find ways that you learn, and I learn very well through audiobooks.
Well, well, there are three different ways that a lot of people learn. Most people learn is audio, like you mentioned, visual, and then of course kinesthetic.
Oh yeah, yeah.
People who
Oh yeah,
learn
for
by
sure.
doing. So yeah,
I
those
think
three
I'm. I think.
dimensions of
I think.
learning.
I think I'm a combination of audio and kinesthetic. Tell me how to do it, and then
Okay.
do it with me. Um,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
hate looking at like when I'm one of those people that put things together like furniture. I like, yo, forget these
Hmm.
directions, John. Just tell me how to do it. Like I love having someone that's like an overseer saying, you put that there, you put that there, and I just listen to them.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely.
So this has been great. That was a great question. If you're gonna share it, please, please email me some good vibration sources. I'll put that in the notes. Your book will be in the show notes because I want people to purchase the book. But the stage is yours. This is your opportunity to do your shout outs and plugs.
Okay. Well, anybody can reach me if you would like your own copy of Confessions of an Unemployed Professional. Please join me. You can go to the link booksbyjared.com. And also you can check me out on LinkedIn. Again, this would be Jared Powell. I'm definitely always on LinkedIn. And then on Facebook at Jared Powell. So yeah, that's where the listeners could definitely find me. Again, that's booksbyjared.com, and then Jared Powell on Facebook, and then as well as LinkedIn.
And what about your shout outs? You want to shout out?
So I would love to shout out to my aunt, Iris Crossley, holding it down up there in D.C.
Mm-hmm.
And I see my brother, Godfrey Powell. He's up in San Jose, holding it down at Facebook. And also my sister, Kimberly Powell, holding it down in Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh wow! And we're gonna share that. Thank you. I think they're great. You got a great family. You know, I definitely know that. I love working with Iris. I definitely randomly check in with her every now and then. She was super positive and super nice to me, and she was a really good support, especially when I was having a tough fall 17. If you get what I'm saying.
Yeah,
she,
yeah,
she, she was
absolutely. It's
she
always
was she was very supportive. She was one of the first people when I was like, I finished, I did it, I'm an alpha now. She was very happy for me. So I definitely she'll always have a special place in my heart for supporting me during that time. So it was crazy.
Oh man, that means a lot. That's great to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, she mentioned you. She always talked you up. So I'm so glad
Hey.
we finally were able to connect.
And eventually, the world is so small. We'll, you never know. I might be out in Cali someday, and you might be in VA someday. We'll link up for sure. So, listeners, thank you so much for listening to the podcast. This has been a great episode. Please get the book, Confessions of an Unemployed Professional by Jared Powell. It's an excellent book. As I said earlier, you can jump right to the sections that have something that vibes with you. Definitely a good Christmas gift for the Christmas holiday season. Don't give it to someone and say, hope you're looking for a job. Do it with a nicer touch than that. but people can but people can use this book. This is great. If you have any questions for the podcast, you know where to find us. We're on Positive Filter at Positive Filter on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We also have a Facebook page. And then if you want to leave a question for the episode, you can either get on directly on the website and leave a voicemail directly on the website, or you can call the number, which is 571-336-6560. That's 571-336-6560. That's the podcast hotline where you can leave voicemails for the podcast. Sometimes I throw those voicemails at the beginning of the episodes. But Jared, thank you so much. Listeners, thank you so much. And we're out.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Positive Filter, a podcast that focuses on family, friends, career, with a little self-help along the way. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your family and friends, and like the Facebook page, Spreading Positivity of Movement. Thanks for listening.